Tonight, the 9th parak of Terumos. We'll start from the beginning and try and get to the end. So we're starting from Mem Zayin and Beis of the Mishnah. Okay, now my Gemara, I noticed there's a little bit. They did some sloppy editing of my Gemara. So if I read things wrong, please let me know. Okay.
Your Gemara,
The Kavanoki. Okay. Has a rash truma. If you plant the truma, shogeg, unintentionally, take stuff which is ray truma, and you plant it in the ground, unintentionally you turn it over. The Mishnah, I'll redo the Mishnah. Shogeg yupach, you turn it over. Well, maize, if you did it intentionally, you grow through the season and harvest it as truma. If it grew a third, then regardless of whether you planted it originally as a shogeg or a maize, you have to keep it in the ground. If it's flax, maize yupach, even if you plant it intentionally, you have to turn it over. Why? Because otherwise you'll have you'll have derived benefit from the flax stalks. And we don't want you to derive that benefit, we don't want you to get that pleasure. Let's skip to the Gemara. If you plant the truma and intentionally you turn it over, it would seem that it would be more severe if we'd say that the shogeg guy gets to keep it, since he did it unintentionally. Whereas the maize guy, the guy who did it intentionally, he should have to turn it over. So it says Gemara, Konsubo, they find this guy who did it intentionally, that for the entire season his field will be subservient or subordinate to truma, and that's going to be his whole crop. Whereas the guy who did it b'shogeg, we let him overturn and start afresh with some new crop, and perhaps he'll come out ahead that way. Rabbi Shmuel bar Avduma, he asked, let's say, will a guy be believed if he's a Kohen? That's important. If he's a Kohen, Lomar to say Mazid, you see, to say I was a Mazid. And for a Kohen, it's an advantage because the Kohen's allowed to eat truma. So he'll harvest the stuff as truma and he'll eat it as truma. So they said to him, Ima yumakirim lav kol menu. If they knew that he planted the truma. Now, yes, last night I said if they knew he planted the truma intentionally, but that's a mistake. What it means is if they knew that he planted the truma, yes or no. I mean, if they knew that he planted the truma, whether he did it intentionally or unintentionally, lav kol menu, then we do not give him permission to grow through. We don't believe him to say mezid or yisi. We assume he was a shogeg and make him turn it over. Okay? In other words, we are machmir on him, that he should lose its use as truma. V'im lav, and if not, if we didn't know that he planted truma, we did not know, and he's the only one who tells us, Rabbi Isai, I planted truma, so then we have the opening to a pesha asar or a pesha itir. Since he's the one who told us that he transgressed Isser, we have to accept it on his terms. And if he tells us, Rabbi Isai, you don't know this, but I'm telling you I transgressed an Isser, but I did it b'mezid. Since all of our information comes from him, we're forced to accept that he did it b'mezid, and by Kohen that happens to be an advantage, so he leaves it in the ground as truma, and he will eat it as truma when he harvests it. Okay? Rabbi Binyamin bar Gidul, Rabbi Binyamin bar Gidul asked, Zora trumas karshinim. If the guy planted truma, but not truma of regular vegetable, but truma of karshinim, which is a type of cress, which is normally used only for animal fodder. So therefore, truma is not really bona fide truma; it's a lighter form of truma. Similarly, zara trumas chutzlaretz. The person planted truma which is from crops which grew in chutzlaretz, which is a lighter form of truma. In these cases, do we say that whatever grows out will be truma as well? So they said no. Gezerah, to take off truma of this animal fodder and to take off truma of fruits and vegetables from chutzlaretz is in itself a gezerah. It's in itself a rabbinic decree. Now, ain't gozing says that we do not make rabbinic decrees on top of rabbinic decrees. In other words, to say that it's forbidden for him to derive any benefit from it, and he has to keep it as truma from the beginning to the end. If it grew a third, regardless of whether he planted originally intentionally or unintentionally, he has to keep it as truma. This teaches us that it becomes holy even though it's still connected to the ground. Hadar this also tells us, if you take of Trumas Amaisos from fruit which is not yet a third grown, Lokideshu, it is a meaningless, null and void act. Okay?
Abaye in Shabbos held it. Also, no Xer.
Yes. No, Rava. Rava said Xer.
But Abaye said
he did make Xer. Okay? Uve Pishton, you don't have the word of Pishton. But Uve Mezid Yupach, right? If it's essentially turned over, why by Pishton specifically? Why by flax? Because if we let him leave in the ground, even though he's going to have to conduct himself with the seeds as truma, but with the reeds, the flax, from which you make linen, it's not a fruit, so therefore that he would be able to use it to make regular linen. So therefore they shouldn't have that benefit. Where even if he planted intentionally, we make him chop down the flax plants which he planted from truma grain, from truma seeds. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah. Go back to the Mishnah in the third line. Since it's only Truma D'Rabbanan, Midaraisa, once you plant Truma in the ground, it's no longer Truma. Since it's only Truma D'Rabbanan, when you replanted it, so therefore, V'chayeves B'leket Shechol Peah. So whatever grows, you have to give Matanos Laniyim from it, right? Because after all, Midaraisa, you have a Chayev B'leket Shechol Peah. However, obviously, regular, plain Jane Jewish Aniyim can't eat it. So what happens? V'aniyeh Yisrael, V'aniyeh Kohanim, poor regular Jews and poor priests, Malaktim, come and gather. And the Yisrael, the poor regular Jews, since they can't eat themselves, they sell their portion Kohanim to the Kohanim, but they made Truma for the price of Truma, meaning for the lesser price of Truma in the marketplace, but they get to keep the money. Rabbi Tarfon says only poor Kohanim should collect this stuff. Because we're afraid maybe otherwise they're going to put the grain in their mouth and it's truma and they're going to eat it. So here it's like Xera, that's true. But in any event, we're afraid that maybe they're going to put it in their mouth, and then we shouldn't let them allow Ani Yisrael to collect. Akiva said, no, I don't accept that chumrah. Because in Kain Loilaktu al Torah, based on this logic, we should never allow anybody to collect unless they're Torah. Because after all, now it's to cause truma to become tamid. Since we don't say that we're makbid on them, we're not makbid on your issue either, that only Aniyeh Kohanim should eat it, should gather it, lest they pop it into their mouth. Let's go to the Mara. The Chayav is beleket, it's responsible for leket. So I told you Michael Mara is messed up. Okay, so you just don't have a header. Okay? I have a header. The Chayav is beleket, it's Chayav and leket. Now, on this, Rabbi Yossi has a question. Hivrish Amorim Letruma. A person set aside Omorim, sheaves of grain, for Truma. Nischafulo. And they got mixed up with sheaves which are already shikha, which are forgotten in the field. So, what happens in this case? So, it's more afilu kain, nonetheless, Aniyeh Yisrael v'Aniyeh Kohanim Mulaktin. Even though some of them are Truma, D'Oraisa. Because you actually designated as Truma, right? Nonetheless, so in this case, the Aniyeh Yisrael and Aniyeh Kohanim should be able to collect together. Why is that? Because Safek Leket is Leket. We have a Safek whether something is Matnos Aniyim or not, or Machmir, and we make it Matnos Aniyim. So the way the Kavanoki learns it is all one question. Whether we allow the Aniyeh Yisrael to collect the Aniyeh Kohanim or don't we? But the truth is, we know in the Yerushalmi very often, boy is a statement. So it could be there's a statement. It's actually a statement that if you have a suffix of leket, where Truma got mixed in with leket, so you allow the poor Yisraelim to come and take, and of course they can't eat it, but they can sell whatever they get to Kohanim and use the proceeds. Okay, you probably don't have the Hatar from Rabbi Tarfon, Omer, etc. Okay, you have Tanya though, right? Tanya, yeah, Tanya. Isha Shamorit's wife and Amoritz, Tochenes Mishto Shel Chaver. She can grind food together with the wife of a Talmud Chacham. It's manchitz mea, but only where the wife of the Amoritz is tummy. Why? Because then she's careful not to come into contact with the wife of the Talmud Chacham. Avizmanchi Torah, but where the wife of the Amoritz is tar, lo titchom. She can't grind together with the Eishes Chaver. Why? Because she's really not tar. She just thinks she's tar. And therefore she might come into contact with the wife of the Talmud Chacham in a way which is going to make the wife of the Talmud Chacham impure. Okay, she machzekes hatma Torah mimena. It's an exaggeration. What the Gemara is saying is that she owes up to be even more Torah than the Eishes Chaver. Now, the Gemara is bringing this all down as a kasha. Ukedivi Rabbi Tarfon. I feel is manchitz male. Well, I don't know if it's a kasha. It's a statement. It's extrapolation. Ukedivi Rabbi Tarfon, according to Rabbi Tarfon, who says we're always afraid of popping into the mouth something. I feel is manchitz male lo titchon. You can't even grind with the wife and our ortzus tmeya. Why? Because shema tishkach v'titein l'toch piyah. Because maybe if you grind together, then it's possible that the wife of the Amoretz will pop something into her mouth, which is tar, and she's going to be mitame that which is tar by popping it into her mouth. So therefore, she never grind together with the wife of an Amoretz.
I assume they just have, it's like a community grinder, so...
Right, you have to grind separate times though.
This is quite a substantial...
Chumrah, right. It's a big chumrah, right. You have to have separate grinders, right. Not in the spirit of unity. Oh, Rabbi Akiva. Oh, do you have one with Rabbi Akiva? No, you don't have that in. Kain Masnisa. This is the way to read our Mishnah. Im Kain loiklo toirim. Rabbi Akiva was asking a statement was asking a question, Rabbi Tarfon, not qualifying Rabbi Tarfon. Without the words Im Kain, so when Rabbi Akiva said, we could have construed Rabbi Akiva to mean loiklo toirim. You're right. First of all, we only let Kohanim collect the leket because it's truma. Now that we only let the Horim collect, and he's agreeing and taking a step further. But when the word Im Kain, it turns into a question. Rabbi Akiva is challenging Rabbi Shmuel, saying, if that's the case, Rabbi Tarfon, if that's the case, you only let Torah collect. We know that there is no such condition imposed. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah. V'chayeves. This is where the little gimel is. 6 lines to the end of the Mishnah. When you harvest this truma, again you plant the truma in the ground. So midaraisa it becomes it's truma. So long as truma, Rabbanan gave it the chumrah of stir truma. Since it's a Rabbanan though, so when it grows out, you still have to give up midaraisa maisers or maiserani. And poor people, poor Jews and poor regular Jews and poor Kohanim, they get to take it. Nonetheless, it's truma d'Rabbanan. So therefore, the poor regular Jews, they sell their portion, the Maiseroni and the Maiser, the Kohanim, to the Kohanim, but they made truma for the price of truma, which is what it well might be. But they do get to keep the money. Okay? Now, Kani Masnisa. Back to the Gemara. Second to last line on the page. Kani Masnisa.
No, it's unheard of bring around.
Yeah. V'chayeves betrumos uve maiseroni. Although the Mishnah only mentioned maiseroni, obviously this grain has to be, even though it's completely truma, but that's midrabanan. Midaraisa, it needs to have in a second time around truma taken off of it. So I actually have to take truma off of it besides the maisers and the maiseroni. Okay? Tanya, Licho shall betzoli. You don't have Tanya. Okay. Licho shall betzoli. Now here's an interesting kula. You have a measure of onions. Shal maiser rishon, which belong to maiser rishon. Shenota that you planted. Farei bo eser rishon now produce 10 times as much. Harelu chayavos b'maiser v'shviyis. It's the midaraisa. It became tevel again. It became untied. So I have to take off meiser and shviyis. Voso meiser rishon shalahem. However, that meiser, which you take off the second time, from it, who ma'avish lo of trumas meiser, you take off trumas meiser on that second batch, al kol mashana v'amashanot, on everything which is there the first time around. Meaning, let's say you planted a bushel of meiser rishon. Now 10 bushels grow. So actually now all 10 bushels are given the chumrah meiser. Right? Because you planted meiser rishon, it's part of the fine which you find you. But now, when you have to take off 1 bushel for trumas meiser on the new growth, plus additional 1/10 of the bushel for trumas meiser on what it was before him, because previously it would have been meiser rishon, for which trumas meiser had been taken off. So you have to take off a bushel and 1/10 to correspond to the trumas meiser of both what it was before it was replanted and what it is now. Okay? Says the Gemara, Litra b'tzolim shel meiser sheni. If you have a measure of onions of meiser sheni, shenota, which you planted, v'arei bo'eser litra, now you have 10 bushels of onions of meiser sheni. Chayavis b'meiseris. Yeah, I have to take off meiser again because midaraisa. So once you replant the ground, everything is null and void. Upaitis meiser sheni shenota. You have to redeem the meiser sheni of that which you replanted. Obviously, again, because everything, the beginning had meiser sheni, and now there's meiser sheni, so you have to redeem everything. Now, what do you do with this grain? Hachoyvet meshubach. Yeah. You have the place, Mr. Zuger? The 5th line down, it's by 2 dots. Hachoyvet meshubach. This new grain which you harvested, it's best to thresh it, not by having animals walk on it, which is the standard way, but rather by hitting it with sticks. Why is that better? Use logic. Because it's truma, midrabanan. So therefore, if you use the animals on it, you're sullying truma d'rabbanan, making it inedible. So that's a big problem by truma. So that's why it's better to be with sticks, because less becomes inedible. Okay? Now, Vadosh what happens if Nebuch, you don't have any sticks, so you actually have to use an ox to thresh, but this is truma, and yet on the other end there's lo safsam shorbedisham, now to muzzle the ox, but you can't let the ox eat it, because ox are not allowed to eat truma. So what do? So toilet fifa b'tzavoria be'ema, you put a feeding basket on the animal's neck. You put the same type of food in the feeding basket, but from chulin. So you come out ahead, because you're not muzzling the ox in a forbidden way, nor are you giving the ox the truma to eat. Okay? Now it's chayv and meiser also, we said. So this says the Gemara Tana, we learned. Hamaki Mekitnios. Do you have Hamaki Mekitnios? Oh, I don't have Rabbi Yossi here. I have it later on. No, but don't skip. No. Okay, so this is also out of order. Tanya b'shem Rabbi Shimon. I'll read it the way you have it. Tanya b'shem Rabbi Shimon. Toila karshinin. What do you put in its feed basket? Karshinin, which are a type of animal fodder. And that's the best stuff for it. They like that more than anything else. We don't know exactly what karshinin are, but it's a type of leafy vegetable. It says Zosameres also came b'chulin and over shum bal tachsom. If you can do it by truma, you can also do it by chulin. In other words, wherever you put a feed basket on the animal, you don't transgress bal tachsim, because the animal's getting what to eat. He's just not getting to eat what's in the field. Okay? Tanya. Is that what we're up to? Liter Shabbatzolim? Oh, now we go back to Marking Bekidnios. Tanya. Hamarking Bekidnios. Is that what we're up to? Now, market is the same thing like threshing, but it's done after the Gemara Malach. In other words, after the vegetables, the legumes are ready suitable for trumas. So a market bekitnil suvatilson, somebody who threshes the legumes, and the tilson is a type of another type of plant. Ain't over shum bal taxum. You don't transgress bal taxum. Why don't you transgress bal taxum? Because it's interesting. The shore, there's only to muzzle an ox when he's involved in one of the stages of work before complete finishing. For what's called Gemara Malacha in Hebrew, before you get to finishing stages. But it's already in the finishing stages. And therefore there's no prohibition about taxum at that stage. However, says Gemara, even though there's no bona fide prohibition about taxum, or muzzling the ox, also named Marasayin, because it looks bad, you're not allowed to do it anyway. Okay? So therefore what do you do in that case? You don't muzzle it, but you put a feed bag on it in order to prevent it from eating outside the feed bag. Okay, now where am I? Tanya Litra Shabbatom, are we there yet?
No. Tani,
B'dayish.
This Tani Badish, Shuhu Asula.
Oh boy, whether this Tanya Litra Shabbatom. All right, you keep me in posted here, because I have it already and I don't see anywhere where it fits in. I guess maybe the end of the page? I don't know. Alright, forget it, it's not important. We'll come back to it. Sound of the top.
Right before what we did before the 2000, of course, is Rosh Hashanah goes on top.
Alright, we did that already. So why don't keep looking back at that? Yeah, scratch it. We did that part already. Okay, next, onwards and upwards. East Tanoi Tanya. The certain Tanoim who learned.
But if you did not ask her beforehand,
yeah, the thing is, he pretends that this is already a Mem Chetzim base, but it's not. Okay, East Tanoi Tanya, we'll just ignore it. East Tanoi Tanya, the certain Tanoim will learn, B'daishu muterloch. That when is it okay to, when are you not allowed to muzzle your ox in its harvesting, something which you yourself would be allowed to eat? He's Tanoi Tanya, but not where it's harvesting Chveis Orla. Or in this case, the ox is threshing. Truma, right? These Tanoi Tanya Abadaishu also. Some will say it's also to muzzle an ox even when he's threshing or something which is forbidden to its owner. Rabbi Bar Memel said, Masnisin, our Mishnah is the Commandamar Apadaishu Asalach. Our Mishnah, or actually the Brisa, is like the Mandamar says that even you're not allowed to muzzle the ox, even in case we're eating so which you yourself are not allowed to eat. The Tina, because we learned when threshing the Truma, the Tina Tolek Fifa B'Tzavari Behema. You put a feeding bucket on the animal's neck, the Chule. Now you don't have those words, but aren't you being muzzling the animal? Oh, no, it's not. It doesn't add anything. Let's just read it without it. Let me read that part again. So it says, Tani b'daishu mutalach, v'istani tani b'daishu wasalach. Some people say, oh, you're right, you don't have any of that. Oh, now I understand why. Take a look at Amud Beis. Because Gemara repeats itself there. Take a look at the third line. Istanoi tani b'daishu mutalach, right? Masnisa tamon amar apu daishu osurlach. There's the other, the Bryce over there says that even in a case where it's daish, where he stretches something which is forbidden to you, osur, you're not allowed to muzzle it. The Tanina says toilak fifos b'tzavoria bebema, says you gotta put not a muzzle, a feed bag on it. So, but if you have to put a feed bag on it when it's threshing truma, that means you're not allowed to muzzle it. Hi, the truma is osur to you. So it's also to your animal. We said even in a case where it's also to you, you still have to provide your animal something, you're not allowed to muzzle it outright. Okay? And then we make a drush for this Tanya, Bedisho, related, Joshua, not for this. Tanya Bedisho v'lo bedarko. You're not allowed to muzzle an animal when it's threshing, but if it's walking, you're allowed to muzzle it. Okay? Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov Omer, af bedarko. Even when it's walking, you're not allowed to muzzle it. Okay? You're never allowed to muzzle an animal, basically. Rabbi Avon. Rabbi Avon said, Rabbi Kiva Shol said, Shim ben Yochai. Rabbi Kiva asked Rabbi Shim ben Yochai, Mivdekune, in order to test them on the following issue. Rabbi Kiva, the Rebbe, asked Rabbi Shim ben Yochai the following question on a faher, on a test. Let's say you muzzled the animal not on the threshing floor, but outside the threshing floor. And then you put him on the threshing floor, it's that okay. So he said, no, it says, it says, do not drink wine when you're coming into the Moed. So there we say, Mi bo'achem Moed. Before you come to the Moed, when you're about to come, you're already asked to drink wine. So to here, you're now allowed to muzzle before the animal comes onto the threshing floor. Because then it'll be muzzled when it's on the threshing floor. Rabbi Zira said, another drasha, Lo sachsam shor b'disho, do not muzzle an ox when it's threshing, Lo sadush b'shor chasum. For this we darshan, you shouldn't even do plowing with an ox which is already pre-muzzled. Pre-muzzling is forbidden as well. Okay, let's see where he takes this. He goes to the next Mishnah. What happened to the rest of the Gemara Amalf? He just skips them. He just skips them. I don't know why. He just skips this whole sugya. Well, let's read it.
Maybe because the source of Shas.
Yeah, maybe because again I look over the next pair. Is it identical there? It looks like it's over there identically. Yeah, it's the exact same sugi at the beginning over there, the next parak. Okay, that's cool. So obviously the Kavanaki felt that this was a typo, and the right of the typo is that before and after the sugya, you have the exact same repetitive Gemara, so we just left the whole thing for the next parak. And I guess that means that we can as well. Okay, on to the next Mishnah. Great. Never look a gift horse in the mouth. Okay, says the Mishnah further. Gidulei Truma. Truma. That which is grows from Truma is Truma. Gidulei Chulin. I'm sorry, Gidulei Chulin. If you replant it again, cycle it in again, the second time around it's Chulin. Okay? Avol, however, Tevel. If you planted stuff which is completely untithed, Ma'aser stuff which was Ma'aser Rishon, right? The stuff which should have been given to Levim. You planted stuff which grew during Shemitah illicitly. Utrumas chutzarts, you plant truma chutzarts. V'amaduma, you planted a mixture of truma and chulin. V'abikurim, you replanted bikurim in the ground. In all these cases, Chazal were not geyser any decree. Giduleim chulin, whatever grows out of them is chulin. Gidulei hekdesh, u'maiser sheni chulin. However, gidulei hekdesh and maiser sheni, that which grows out of hekdesh, which you replanted, or maiser sheni, which you replanted, though it's chulin, upoida some is manzon, you have to redeem them, because hekdesh and maiser sheni can be redeemed, as they were at the time that you planted them. We'll come back to this in the Gemara. Let's start the Gemara now. Okay? Vitani. Okay? So, I have a header here, Gedulei Chulin. Says Maratana, we learned by Medvar, we're in Bedovish Shazaro Kola. As we'll see later in the parak, when do I say that whatever grows there subsequently is okay? By, let's say it was Tevel, right? That's only if the seed rots in the ground. But let's say it's a bulb, okay, like an onion. So the old onion is still there. In that case, even if you replanted the onion, it still remains also. Now, I'm not a botanist, and I'm sure neither are you, but it seems that you can grow onions both from bulbs and from seeds. Do you know that for a fact? Or just saying right because I said it? I've never seen one either. Right. It seems that it can be replanted. The truth is, it must be that way, because otherwise you should always have a 1-to-1 ratio of onions. How can you get more onions than you plant?
There is a kid's science experiment. Take the bulb of the onion, put a toothpick in it, put it in water, watch it sprout, and plant that in the ground.
But how many onions will you get then?
I don't know. Are you going to get more?
Yeah, well, you have to, because otherwise there should be a finite amount of onions in the world, right?
Like sweet potatoes. Oh, sweet potatoes is different, though. You cut each eye out.
Each eye is a seed.
Yeah, each eye is so maybe with the onion, when it's closed, you cut all that stuff.
So it seems you have an option. You can do bulbs or maybe each branch. Maybe that's the way it works.
Once it starts growing, then you can
That could be. Okay. So in any event, so something where you replant the bulb in the ground, and even whatever grows out the second time is still awesome. Now I have a whole bunch of headers, which you probably don't have, about each thing here in the Mishnah. No, you do. Avalat tevel. You just don't have dots. Avalat tevel. Why, when you plant tevel in the ground, does whatever grow not become tevel? Sheruba chulin. Because most of it is chulin. Now, let me clarify something, because it's going to come up again later on. It is tevel. Whatever grows out of the ground is tevel.
Right.
So what does it mean what would it mean to make a gzeira that it is tevel?
Isn't tevel, though, technically the time to erect or harvesting?
No, on the contrary. When is something technically tevel?
When in the ground?
No. On tithe. No. When it's in the house.
When it's in the house?
Because then you're not even allowed to eat from it as a snack. That's what I mean. If we were geyser that gidulei tevel, we said just like tevel, you're not allowed to snack from it. This stuff, even though it's right now in the fields, since it once was in the house, then you would not be allowed to snack on it. Because it had been in the house previously. That's what we mean. Gidulei tevel, where they consider tevel being that they themselves had seen the house, and therefore they cannot be snacked upon. And where to be geyser on the gidulei tevel, you wouldn't be allowed to snack on the gidulei tevel as well. Okay? Is that clear? So we didn't make the decree, the enactment there, because the majority of them is chulin anyway, right? Since by tevel 90% of it is chulin, 80%, whatever it is. Meiser Rishon also shubal chulin, 90% of it is chulin, except for the trumas meiser. And tzvichei shvius, why don't we even say if you replanted stuff which grew illicitly during shmita, sheina mitzuin? It doesn't happen very often. First of all, you don't really plant during tzvichim during shmita very often. Besides, it only happens once every 7 years. So chazal weren't geyser, like milsa lo shchicha lo geyser abonin. The infrequent occurrence for the rabbis didn't decree against. The Trumas Chutzlar, it's also Shena Mitzui, it's infrequent. Most people with Chutzlar don't take off Truma. Va'ameduma, and if you have a mixture, that's also okay, Shubal Chulin, because most of it is Chulin. Va'bikurim, and if you replant Bikurim in the ground, then whatever grows not Bikurim, Shena Mitzui, they're not prevalent either. Again, for one of two reasons here. That either because they only come from Shiva Saminim, from the 7 types which Eretz Yisrael was praised in, or because since Bikurim is such a precious mitzvah, so therefore people don't replant them in the ground generally, and therefore it's a milslo shchichon lo gozer be'rabban, Rabban did not decree in such a case. Okay, Bisman Shazaran, when you did plant them, do you have that header? Bisman Shazaran, yeah, okay. 3 lines to the bottom. Rav B'Shem B'Yochanan, it says, Poda es kol ha'otzer bin me'ol sasa. What happens when you do plant Meiser Sheni? And now you have a whole crop of Meiser Sheni. So how do you redeem it? So Rabbi Ravone Yochanan said you only redeem whatever you planted, not your entire new crop. Only whatever you planted. Says the Gemara. Hefresh ben hektish l'Meiser Sheni. There's a distinction between hektish and Meiser Sheni. What's the between hektish and Meiser Sheni? Meiser Sheni, if you replant a Meiser Sheni, bein b'davar shezar akola, whether it's something where it rots in the ground, or bein b'davar shein zar akola, or it's a bulb type growth, where the part of the original fruit remains in the ground, niftek kashar azol, regardless, you redeem it based on the price that a storekeeper would pay for it, not what a storekeeper would sell it for, which is much less. The storekeeper's wholesale, the storekeeper has to earn a profit. That's the amount you redeem it for. Ella, however, davar shazaro kol, if it's something where the seed rots, so then nifte, it's redeemed kishar based on the price. Now here the Gra changes the girsa harisho, based on the original price, the price where at the time that it was planted. Why? Because it's no longer here. When was the last time this was actually extant? The seed rot in the ground. When was the time it was actually extant? When it was planted. So we go after the going rate at the time it was planted. However, if it's something where the seed does not rot because it's like a bulb, then nifte kashar, and it should be here, shiur made bow. You go after what it's worth today. Because why? Because I can identify the bulb and say this bulb actually is the bulb which I planted. So ever since it's still around, I go after today's value. Okay? That's all by my Sheni. When I planted hekdesh, the hekdesh ben dovish zara kola, whether it's something where the seed already rotted, uben dovish zara kola, whether it's thing where there's a bulb, elo elamekoim of a shaito. I go after now what it's worth here and what it's worth now. Why is that? Because of the chumrah of hekdesh. So people should realize that hekdesh is hekdesh, and therefore we make you redeem based on now, what it is now, what its value is now. Avodavish shazaro kole. So what by hekdesh is the difference between something where it's a seed which rots or a bulb? Davish shazaro kole. If it's something where the seed rots, as we said previously, Rabbi Yochanan gave a kula before. You can redeem your entire new crop, even though it's all ma'aser sheni, based on the value of whatever seeds you planted, which is much less, right? Because that might be a tenth or 100, whatever grew, right? The davar shein zara kola, but if something where it's bulbs where there's still something left from the original batch, which is ma'aser sheni, peiris kola otzar. There we have to be machmir, and we have to redeem every single bulb based on its new value, not based on its old value. So therefore, in that case, you obviously have to pay much more. Again, this is because of the severity of hekdesh. People should realize that we're dealing with hekdesh here. Okay? Let's go weiter. Back to the Mishnah, actually. Okay. Mea Lagina. This is... Yeah, the last narrow line in Mem Tesmaral. Mea Lagina. Okay? You had 100 patches or rows. Shel Truma. Because you replanted Truma improperly. Fa'achas shel Chulin. One row is of Chulin. Is regular stuff. Chulam b'torim b'davar shazara kola. As long as the seeds rot in the ground, everything is mutter. Even though it's a ratio of 100 to 1 of Isser. 100 Truma to 1 of Chulin. But it's still okay, because this is all Takonis Chazal. So we have so therefore they were making in this case. Avo b'davar she'ein zara kola, but it's something where it's no, the seed did not rot. The bulb is there. So on the contrary, afilu meila shel Chulin v'achas shel Truma. Even if 100 are Chulin and 1 is Truma, Chulin Asun, they're all Asur. So he explains on the bottom, you know why they're all Asur? Because we don't say Bittul Baro by Mechubul Karka. We don't nullify it. Even though 100 to 1 is normally the shiur of nullification. Anything which is connected to the ground is considered to be a dover chashuv, a significant thing, and it's not Balto. Okay? Says Gemara. Let's go back to the Gemara. Rabbi Yosef. It's a fascinating case here. We're about to learn. Where is this in the Gemara? Seventh line down on Memtas and base. Rabbi Yossi, Zosa Meris. Our Mishnah tells, I gotta tell you, it's a classic Yerushalmi. Zosa Meris, Oil for a Mea Seo, Holos Mitoch Mea Seo. It's a brilliant case. You have 100 times 101. in each case, in each of these 100 groups, you had 100 chulin and 1 truma. The halacha is here, 100 chulin, 1 truma, it's batal. But what do you have to do midrabanan? Take one out and give it to a kohen, right? Midrabanan, not midoraisa, in order not to cause a kohen a loss. Let's say, from those 100 groups, the 100 designated bushels which you picked up now all got mixed together. So they're all truma. Midrabanan. They're all truma midrabanan. So, nonetheless, if they all got mixed together, and 1 chulin, 1 fell in, mutaros. They're all mutar now. That's a parallel case to our Mishnah. Just like our Mishnah, since it's all the Rabbanan, even if you had 100 truma and 1 chulin, it's batel. So to here, if you had 100 which were taken out from each and every one of the from each and every one of the mixtures there, and those are all truma, but since it's only truma the Rabbanan, as long as 1 chulin and 1 gets mixed into them, it's batel. Not but the barov, obviously, because the overwhelming majority is truma. Rather, because of this, the Rabbanan were willing to relax their standards in that case. Okay? Yes? No, it's a completely different case.
Yeah.
It's a case, right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, the Mishnah is talking about specifically the issues of where you replanted truma. It's a complete. That's what I'm saying. It's a wild comparison. Okay, we're comparing a case where you planted stuff in the ground to a case where they were just regular mixtures, nothing to do with planting in the ground. But that's what the Yerushalmi is doing. Okay, I don't know if you have that header. He had a measure of truma which fell into 100 measures of chulin. V'osu mitoch mea, and you picked one up, right? Do you have all that?
We don't have also.
Okay, you don't have v'osu mitoch mea?
It's such a also mitoch
Mea seh. The same idea. The bottom line is you picked one up. Okay, you picked one up. And then it fell down again, right? Chulin somewhere else. So chulin kol shem mevatlino. So as long as it can mix up with chulin in some fashion, that cancels it. Again, parallel to our Mishnah, right? Hacha. However, as our Mishnah said, well, it's not however. And continuing along this line, as our Mishnah said, likate, if you gathered the truma ones, v'nofel esocha chulin kol shein, if the 1 chulin 1 fell in, even to 100 truma, mutari, they're all mutar. So what's Rabbi Yochanan being mechadish? So you should know what Rabbi Yochanan being mechadish, that even you gather b'mezid. Forbiddenly, you're not allowed to gather this truma, because you're not allowed to cause the nissus to be batel. If you did it, nonetheless, the 100 truma are batel and the 1 chulin. Okay, this is similar to Kamad Rabbi Yossi Amar, just like Rabbi Yossi said early in the Masechta, Tamon over there, Teichenu Matir. So you had 100. No, you had 99 truma to 1, 99 chulin to 1 truma. But the chulin is a better grade, so if you grind it, so then it's going to become 100 to 1, because it's the truma is going to expand more than the truma. So in that case, we're allowed to be mvatal isl chatchila. That's what Rabbi Yossi said. Kamar Rabbi Yossi Amar Tamon, you can grind and be matered even l'chatchila. Of Hacha Amar Kain, does he say the same thing over here? That you can collect the truma. Now, it's our Mishnah said you're not allowed to go and collect it. Only b'di'ev, but if you did collect it, so the truma is bought on even 1 chulin. But what about according to Rabbi Yossi? Just like Rabbi Yossi said over there, you can grind in order to be mvatal. Can you do the same thing here? Collect in order to be mvatal or not? So it says more avhacha king. Yeah, here too we can do that as well. Says more. Why would you say this? Tamon, maybe over there he's okay, because whenever he grinds, mizel ola biyado, he's grinding from both substances together simultaneously. So he's never actually taking one by itself and then throwing it back in and being mavatal it. But here, kol hatevel ola biyado. Well, actually, maybe he's gathering separately from the truma separately and the chulin separately. So maybe here it's also says, you're right. B'shlikim me'achas. If you only gather from one patch at a time, tak it. It'll be also, because it's not comparable to the grinding case where you ground from both together. But if you gather from both together, mizu olam biyado. So we assume that he got from both and he brought them both together, and that's okay. Okay, because in that case, I'd say it's similar to the grinding, which is matir, so to collect them together would be mutter as well. Okay, let's go back to the Mishnah yet another time. Hatevel gilu mutarin.
What is the logic, by the way, of the Mishnah said before, that even that there is a difference of 1 to 100?
There's no logic. It's purely a kula d'rabbanan. They zapped you with making everything which grew from the truma. They would decided when the other will be somewhat lenient with you. Okay, they didn't want to make the takara. Perhaps we could say svara. Svara might be that if we made a taka like regular param to truma, people would be under the mistaken impression that this is bona fide truma, even midoraisa, and they would neglect to take off the matanis doraisa from this which they're mechuyev to give, as I saw previously. So if they wanted to give it certain traces, that it's only the rabbanan dikadin. Okay, perhaps that's the case. Hateva b'gedulav, teva which grows, mutarim b'dar of davar shazar kola. We said it's permissible in something where the seed rots. But if the seed does not rot, it's an onion bulb. Gidulei nasurim. Not only is that which grows the first time also, but that which grows the second time is also also. If you plant it from the bulb and then plant it again the bulb, the second time it's also as good. What's the case where it's not considered where indeed the bulb remains in the ground? Kigon aluf, vashum, vabtzolim. I don't know what luf is, but shum we know is a garlic and btzolim are onions. Shum kitzorim. Rabbi makes a cryptic statement the Gemara will explain, which is that onion is like barley. But garlic is like barley. I always make that mistake. Okay, let's go back to the Gemara. Hatevel gidula v'chule. You don't have that, but you do have ad heichon, don't you? Yeah. Ad heichin you have 3, 6, 8 lines to the bottom of Mem Tesson base. Okay, how long does this prohibition last? With davar shein zara kola. How many replantings does it last through? Rabbi Yaakov B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan said, "Ad sholosh gronos." For 3 replantings, it's asuros. For avis mutos, 4 replanting is permissible. Rashmur Bar Abduma Bar Kum Rabbi Mani Asfer Ramona B'Tchumat Ka'amor. If you planted truma, actual truma, so how long is it forbidden? Amar Lei, so he said, "Osu Garin Arvis Gur Rishona." Even the 4th time, it's like the first time, and it's forbidden. Magon Rishona. Davish Zara Kola B'Truma Aser, but by the first planting. If it's something where even though the seed rots, by Truma it's Aser. By Tevel, of course, it's mutter, right? As long as the seed rots by Tevel, it means it's mutter. Av Geren Avis, so to the 4th time around. B'Davar Shein Zara Kola B'Truma Aser B'Tevel mutter. If it's something where the seed where the bulb does, where it's not the seed, where we have a bulb, so betruma aser v'tevel mutter. Right? Okay. Yeah. By davar shein zara kola. Let me make this clear, Mr. Zuger. By davar shein zara kola, where it's a seed which rots in the ground. So by tevel, the first time around it's mutter. By truma, the first time around it's aser. Where you replant it, even by truma, it's going to be mutter, since the seed rots in the ground each time. Where it's a bulb, however, so bulb, we said that by tevel, it's also until the 3rd time. The 4th time, it's mutter. By truma, it's even also the 4th time. The 5th time is the first time it becomes mutter. And it seems like, although I don't understand how this works because I'm a city slicker, but the 5th time already, the bulb doesn't work properly. That's why the 5th time it's not considered to be gedulim anymore, and that's why it's okay it's not considered to be truma. Okay, but truma also ma'atzlach. Where do you have such a case? By vegetables that it even goes to a 5th generation. The bulb can be replanted again and again and again up to 5 times. Kagon klisin. Okay, so klisin we don't know what that is. Hashum kesorim. We said in the Mishnah. What?
They have horseradish root.
You plant it time after time after time?
You can keep chopping off parts that can go for many generations.
No. Yeah, really?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Take over an entire...
Yeah, horseradish take over entire...
Yeah.
That's cool.
Don't plant it.
It's a weed, probably, right? Hashum Kisoichim. Do you have the header? Top of Nun Amud Aleph.
Says Rabbi Oval.
Rabbi Oval, okay. Avo b'shem Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina says, what does this mean? Hashum ad kisora. If you have an onion the size of a barley, then l'dovish zara kol. That's not a bona fide bulb. That's basically like a seed which rots in the ground. Okay, it has to be a significant bulb. If the bulb is larger, it's going to be like a bona fide bulb. Rabbi Yossi said, Hashum, no. This is what it means. Hashum kasor l'chol davar. He says, for some reason, which I understand, onions are not bulbs. They're not. They're just like barleys, in that they're considered to be like seeds that rot around the ground. What?
Garlic.
Oh, I keep saying onions. Yeah, garlic. It's not considered to be. It's not considered to be like a bulb. I guess because it's so small. But they're considered to be like barley, and therefore it's always considered to be, if it rots around, it's always mutter after the first time. Okay? Let's go on to Halacha Gimel. You are hoeing with a goy in lettuce-like plants. Even though the goy replanted tevel, and the goy shouldn't be allowed to snack out in the fields, because it's the halacha of tevel, you are allowed to snack. So the Gemara is going to ask why. You have bulbs of truma which you're going to replant improperly. You shouldn't, but you're going to. But they're tamei. Shoslan. What if you did replant them then? Taru milatami. They're no longer tamei. However, Rabbanan banned you from eating them. They're not allowed to eat them until you take off one layer and let it grow again. Now, the way this works, again, city slicker, what do I know? But you have a stalk on which the leaves grow. You have to remove the first time the leaves grow and let a new batch of leaves grow from the stalks. And that second batch is mutter. Again, the first batch we regard as if it's tamei, because you planted truma tmeil. It's only the second batch we allow. It's only the third batch we allow. After you cut off, let it grow again, cut off again, and then the third batch is mutter. Okay? Says the Gemara, we're going to make it, guys. Rachi Barashi said, the Rabbi Shimon. So the Gemara has a kash, although the Gemara doesn't express the question properly. Why is it mutter to snack? It's teva. Why is it mutter to snack? So the Gemara is going to Rabbi Shimon. What does Rabbi Shimon hold? The Gemara doesn't tell us, but I'll tell you. Shimon holds that a goy's growth is exempt from trumas and maasros. So therefore, it's not really teva. Teva is only a Jew's growth, not a goy's growth. It says more boo, boo, boo. Ikra Shimon is Shimon. Lamali arai. Why can we eat it off the cuff as a snack? I feel keva nami. Rabbi Shimon holds that parents of a goy and Eretz are exempt from trumas and maasros altogether. Yeah, lafkia mitrumas and maasros. Okay? Something like that. El begin down Rabbi Yirmiyah, so give another answer like Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Chia said B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Mod Rabbi Shimon Shumar B'Shma Asrois Me'aloch. You know what? If you call Rabbi Shimon, Mirabani, you have to take off Trumas Ma'is of that which grows in Eretz Yisrael, even in Goyish land. So therefore, Tzvichin Meim Rabbi Shimon, we say our mission is like Rabbi Shimon. And Rabbi Shimon really holds that according to the strict letter of the law, you never have to take Trumas and Ma'asos off of it, and it's always mutter to eat either permanently or either as part of a meal or as part of a snack. But Rabbi Shimon really holds me Rabbanon. You have to take Trumas and Ma'asos off the stuff even grows in a goy's land, and therefore he holds that you're not allowed to eat once stuff of tevel, which grew in a goy's land, is replanted. You're not allowed to eat from the harvest only arai, but not keva, until you actually take off Trumas and Ma'asos. Okay, Tanya, we learned to the Brisa. What if you're holding together with a Samaritan? Then it's possible that he did tithe. So every b'chasius mutter, b'dmai. If you do, because he's doing this this lettuce-like plant, so mutter b'dmai. If it's the mai, you're not sure if the kuti fixed it or not, you're allowed to eat a snack from it. But if it's definite, in other words, you know the kuti never tithed it, so this is going when they still thought the kuti were Jews, so therefore it's mamish tevel, right, and therefore you can't even snack from it. Lama? Why? What's the difference? Shad mai bottom mechuber lakarka. Because the mai, where maybe the kuti did take off trubas and maisers, once it's replanted, it's okay. Vengduli isser malin also. And yeah, we don't say.
Did they come through my money if he did not get the job?
Oh, well, where it's mamish tevel that I planted, right? It's literally tevel. 1 second. Yeah, right. By literally tevel, right? But it's bottom by tevel. You know, the kuti did not tithe it at all. So then the whatever grows now, even though you have more growth than was originally there, it doesn't cancel the tevel. And then, of course, you're not even allowed to eat from it. All right, you're not allowed to snack out in the field. If perhaps the kuti was ma'maiser, so then it doesn't have the din of tevel when it's replanted in the ground. And if you're hoeing with the kuti, you can snack from it out in the field. Okay? So if you know the kuti didn't meiser it, and then you replanted it, then you can't snack from it out in the field. Why? Because even though now there's more growth than whatever the kuti originally planted, it doesn't matter. That's the loch of tevel, it's replanted. You can't eat from it arai at all. Period. Okay? Shesile truma shnitmu. I don't think you have that header. Okay? Amra yavo b'shem yochna. Shesile. Now here's a big typo. Should be shesile chulin. You have bulbs of chulin, shenitmu, which became tamei. So you can't make them truma as is, right? You have tamei onions, you can't make them truma. What can you do? Shaslan, you can plant them, and then when they grow again, their truma falls off of them. Vosa sunny truma, you can make them truma. Vima truma korn. Of course, as we said in our Mishnah, if they were truma before you started and then became tamei, even if you plant them again, you're stuck. The tuma doesn't fall off, midrabanan, you're still not allowed to eat them. A similar halacha. Mayim shnitmu, you have water which became tamei, and you want to use it for nisuch hamayim, for the water libations on sukkahs. Meshika, and what do? You put it into a mikveh. Meshika means you make it literally kiss. You make the water which you want to use for nisuch hamayim kiss the other water in the mikveh by connecting them together. Then you can use them for nisuch hamayim. You can use them for the water libation on sukkahs. However, what happens if they are already designated for nisuch hamayim and they're already kli sharis, and then they became tamei? It's too late. You can only do this before they became, just like by the truma. Once it's truma, you can't replant it and take off the truma, only when it's chulin. So to here, once the water is already water of nisuch hamayim, because it wasn't a kli sharis, it was in a holy vessel, you can't take off the truma. The only time you can take off the truma is prior to that, when it was the kli sharis, and then you can take it off by being meshikit, by doing kind of a tefillah, so to speak, on this water. Okay? Yet another case. You have olives and grapes which became tamei. Sochtan. So you can't take truma off the olives and grapes because they're tamei. Sochtan, you squeeze them out, also in truma, and you make the olive oil or grape juice truma. Because the olive oil or grape juice did not become tamei when it was in the olive or in the grape. Why? Because only a foodstuff the size of a beitzah can impart truma. And here the olive or grape was smaller than a kibetza, and it didn't impart tuma. It doesn't impart tuma to the grape juice or olive oil when it's in the olive or the grape, because we hold that it's not separate entity yet. When does it become a separate entity, being makabel tuma? As it's exiting. But as it's exiting, it's not touching something which is a kibetza in size, and therefore can't be makabel tuma. Okay, so you can actually take trumas from the olive oil and grape juice. And of course, if they were truma already, if you designate the grape juice or olive oil as truma, so then kvar nidchu, it's too late. You can't do it afterwards. Rabbi Yehuda said, you have to make sure when you squeeze it that you have less than a beitzah of grapes or olives in each place, because he holds. The first opinion held that even if they have a cluster of grapes or a bunch of olives, they're still not considered to be connected in any way, shape, or form, and therefore just squeeze them without any additional care. But Rabbi Yizir and Rabbi Yasser hold that moisture will connect them. So therefore, if they're all together, all the grapes and the olives, and then you squeeze them, so moisture connects the grapes to make a clump, which is size kabates, and so do the olives. So therefore, you have to squeeze them individually. You have to squeeze each one in a manner that is less than a beitza. Then yeno kosher. Then the wine is kosher, not just be truma, but even to be in the sachim, even to be libations on top of the mizbeach. Chavraya Omri, the Chaverim said, Rabbi Shimon Lakish Polik. Rabbi Shimon Lakish argues on Rabbi Yochanan. What's he arguing? Is arguing Rabbi Yochanan's kula? In other words, Rabbi Yochanan said that if you plant the chulin in the ground, it becomes oitz chulin. It becomes chulin tmeim in the ground. They lose the tumah. You can make truma of them. If you have water which is tamei and it's not yet truma, not yet nisuch hamayim. So Rabbi Yochanan said you can then put in the mikveh and reuse it. And on those cases and such like, Reish Lakish argued on the kula or bein l'chumra. Or do you argue on the chumra cases? In other words, on the case Rabbi Yochanan said he can't do it's already truma, or he can't do it's already nisuch hamayim. Which case did he argue on? If you're going to say you argue Rabbi Yochanan's kula nicha, that makes sense. If you're going to say you argue Rabbi Yochanan's chumra, he said you don't have to be so machmir. That can't be, because that's not Rabbi Yochanan's din, that's the Mishnah's din. Rabbi Yochanan is just quoting the Mishnah in that context. The Mishnah said if you plant the truma on the ground, the tumah doesn't fall off. You got to remove all the leaves and not use them. So therefore, he can't argue on Rabbi Yochanan's chumrah. He can only argue Rabbi Yochanan's kula. He must argue on the kula and not on the chumrah. Finally, the last line of the parak. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Kini mas nisa." You should know this is the way to read our Mishnah. Yigom ba'alim v'yishner. You have to not. You don't have to cut off you don't cut off the stalk. In other words, you have these crest-like plants. You have leaves growing off the stalk, right? So what you do is you don't cut that when it says yigom. You don't cut the stalk. You cut the leaves off. And then the next time the leaves grow, according to Tanakama, you can use them. That's about where you planted truma tmei on the ground, and now it grew. So the Chazal still gave it the character of truma tmei in that the first growth you're not allowed to eat. You have to cut that off. The second growth you're allowed to eat. There's another opinion later in the Mishnah that even the second growth you're not allowed to eat. You have to wait till the third growth. But again, all these are talking about cutting down the leaves, not cutting down the stalk. The stalk you can leave and let it grow over and over again until finally you get a stage where it's mutter. Hadron la chazareah. On Monday we start the new parak on Nun Amud Beis.